Broke Millennial. Stop scraping by and get your financial life together. Written by Erin Lowry. Summarized by Detailed Book Summaries. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 1. Money isn't the worst. Seriously. Broke Millennial opens with a quiet challenge. What if money wasn't your enemy? What if it wasn't the monster under the bed, or that thing you dread checking every time you swipe your debit card? Imagine, just for a second, that money could be a friend. Not your best friend. Maybe, but at least a dependable one. That's the tone Erin Lowry strikes from the start, gently disarming our fear of finances and inviting us into a conversation instead of a lecture. It's as if she's sitting across from you at your kitchen table, sipping coffee and saying, "Let's talk about money," but not the way you've always heard it before. Because here's the truth. Money isn't the worst. It just feels like the worst because we've never been taught how to use it without judgment, fear, or shame. And Lowry doesn't waste time pretending this fear isn't real. She leans into it, asks why we feel the way we do, and slowly unpacks the emotional weight we all carry around our wallets. Why is it that something so essential, something we interact with daily, is the very thing so many of us avoid? It's not the numbers we fear, it's the story we've attached to them. The bank account that reminds us of missed goals. The credit card balance that whispers, "You messed up." The feeling of being behind, of not knowing, of thinking everyone else got the memo except you. But Lowry's genius lies in her tone. She doesn't condescend or scold. Instead, she shares her own story of growing up in a household that treated money as a normal, everyday subject. She was expected to earn, save, and pay her own way from an early age. Not because her parents were cruel, but because they believed in her. And more importantly, they believed that financial independence could be taught, not inherited. She bought her own theater tickets, paid for her own prom dress, and learned how to live within her means because no one else was going to bail her out. It's not a tale of bootstraps and superiority. It's a mirror. She's showing us that this level of self-sufficiency is possible, even if your childhood looked nothing like hers. And maybe it didn't. Maybe money was never talked about in your home. Maybe it was a source of stress, arguments, or silence. That's okay too. Lowry reminds us that most people aren't handed financial literacy on a silver platter. If anything, our school systems and social environments actively discourage talking about money, unless it's to sell us something or shame us for not having enough. And so we enter adulthood wildly unprepared, but somehow expected to understand Roth IRAs, credit scores, and student loan consolidation like it's all just common sense. It's not. It never was. And Lowry says that out loud so we can finally breathe. This chapter doesn't open with a budget spreadsheet or a crash course in compound interest. Instead, it opens with mindset, with the idea that your relationship with money can evolve, just like any relationship. If money were a person in your life, how would you describe it? Passive-aggressive? Overbearing? Distant? The point of that metaphor isn't just to be cute. It's to show us that we treat money emotionally, even if we pretend we're rational about it. So if we want to change how we handle money, we have to start by changing how we think about it. Lowry invites us to look at our last 5 purchases. Not to judge, but to observe. What do those purchases say about what we value? Were they driven by joy, necessity, boredom, or stress? Are we spending in a way that matches our priorities? Or are we just trying to keep up, soothe ourselves, or escape? These questions are uncomfortable, but they matter. Because once you see your patterns clearly, you can begin to take back control. Not in a restrictive, joyless way, but in a way that makes you feel powerful instead of powerless. The core message here is that personal finance isn't about deprivation. It's about intention. It's not about skipping lattes unless you actually don't want them. It's about knowing what each dollar you spend is doing for you. And if it's not doing something you value, you get to change that. Not out of guilt, but out of agency. Lowry also digs deep into the role of shame. She knows that many of us avoid financial conversations because we're embarrassed. Embarrassed about debt, about lack of savings, about feeling clueless. But shame thrives in silence, and this book, starting with this very first chapter, is a full-throated permission slip to stop being silent. It's okay to not know. It's okay to start from wherever you are. The only thing that matters is that you start. She offers a gentle but firm first step. Check your bank account. Just open the app. Look at the numbers. See what's coming in, what's going out. Do it without self-loathing. Just take stock. And when that little voice in your head says, "How could you let it get this bad?" Interrupt it. Replace it with, "Now I know better. So I can do better." That's not just an affirmation. It's a strategy. Because every healthy financial journey begins with awareness, not perfection. And that's where the chapter leaves us. Not with a list of tasks, but with a shift in perspective. Money is not out to get you. It's not here to judge you. It's simply a tool. And like any tool, it works best when you learn how to use it intentionally. You're not behind. You're not hopeless. You're just getting started. This isn't a sprint. It's a relationship. And every relationship begins with understanding, communication, and a willingness to grow. So take a breath. You've made it through the hardest part, acknowledging that something needs to change. And guess what? That's already progress. Now let's keep going. Chapter 2. Is money a Tinder date or marriage material? Have you ever treated money like a Tinder date? That fleeting moment of excitement, temporary, spontaneous, and entirely unserious? It's thrilling at first, and maybe even a little rebellious. You swipe your card, you Venmo your friend for dinner, you click buy now on something that promises happiness in a cardboard box. But then reality hits. The bill comes due. The balance shows up. The high disappears, and you're left wondering why your finances feel like they're ghosting you. Erin Lowry opens Chapter 2 of Broke Millennial by asking us to really look at that pattern, to pause and consider whether money, for us, is just a fling, or something we're actually ready to commit to. It's an honest, slightly uncomfortable question. Are you in a relationship with your money? Or are you just hooking up with it whenever it's convenient? This chapter pulls no punches in addressing how so many of us drift through our 20s with a casual, almost dismissive relationship with money. We don't really plan. We don't strategize. We tell ourselves that we'll figure it all out later, once we're older, richer, or magically better at adulting. But Erin gently calls out that illusion. Because later isn't a strategy, it's a stall. The truth is, financial health, just like emotional or physical health, doesn't happen by accident. It's built through deliberate choices, daily habits, and a willingness to stop ghosting the parts of life that make us uncomfortable. And here's the emotional depth of it all. Our behavior with money isn't just about numbers. It's about what money means to us. It's about how we see ourselves in the world, what we believe we deserve, what we're afraid we'll never have. If your financial choices feel chaotic or disconnected, it might not be because you're lazy or irresponsible. It might be because you're avoiding something deeper: fear of failure, shame over the past, anxiety about the future. Erin doesn't frame this as weakness. She frames it as something deeply human. We all carry stories about money. Stories shaped by our upbringing, our trauma, our dreams, and our disappointments. And those stories influence how we spend, save, or ignore our finances altogether. So what does it mean to go from a casual, swipe-right relationship with money to something long-term, something meaningful? It starts with commitment. Not dramatic, all-or-nothing vows, but small, steady actions that say, "I'm showing up for this." Erin urges us to stop waiting for the perfect moment. There will never be a time when your calendar clears, your income doubles, and your motivation suddenly spikes. Commitment starts now, in the middle of the mess. It's in the decision to log into your bank account, even if you're afraid of what you'll see. It's in the choice to track your spending for a week, not to punish yourself, but to finally understand where your money's actually going. Erin's metaphor of dating is more than a clever comparison. It's deeply instructive. Just like in romantic relationships, financial commitment means learning how to communicate. It means taking responsibility. It means understanding your patterns and being willing to evolve. Are you impulsive with money because you crave comfort? Are you avoidant because you're ashamed of past decisions? Are you dependent on others to bail you out because deep down, you don't trust yourself to figure it out? These aren't questions we're often encouraged to ask ourselves. But Erin insists that we must. Because without self-awareness, we'll stay stuck in the same cycles, expecting different results. She also introduces the idea of financial types. Just like some people are hopeless romantics and others are commitment phobes, our relationship styles with money vary too. Some of us are natural savers, disciplined, cautious, maybe even a bit rigid. Others are spenders, generous, spontaneous, easily tempted. Some are planners, some are dreamers. Erin doesn't say one is better than the other. Instead, she encourages us to get curious. What's your financial type? How does it help you? Where does it trip you up? This kind of self-knowledge is empowering. It's not about fitting into a box. It's about designing a system that works with your personality instead of against it. And if the word budget sends you into a spiral, you're not alone. For many of us, budgeting feels like a punishment, a list of things we're not allowed to have. But Erin flips that idea on its head. A budget isn't a restriction. It's a boundary. Just like healthy boundaries in a relationship help build trust, a budget helps build freedom. It's the difference between feeling out of control and feeling grounded, between panicking at the end of the month and confidently making decisions because you know what your money's doing. What makes this chapter especially powerful is how it reframes the concept of financial responsibility. It's not about perfection. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about consistency, showing up, being honest with yourself. If you overspent last weekend, okay, now you know. Now you can adjust. If you've never made a savings plan, fine, start one today. The past doesn't disqualify you from a stable future, but ignoring your finances now will. Erin's invitation is simple. Stop treating money like a temporary visitor in your life. Start treating it like a partner, a real one worth showing up for. Because when you do, when you start paying attention, start making intentional choices, start building systems that reflect your values, you stop feeling like money is this wild, unpredictable force outside your control. You start feeling like a person in charge. And that feeling? That's what financial confidence really is. It's not about how much you earn. It's about how much you understand, how well you plan, and how deeply you believe that you are capable of building a life you're proud of. So maybe it's time to swipe left on chaos. To stop texting your finances only when you're desperate. To stop hoping someone else will come along and fix it all for you. This is your relationship to build, your future to protect, your money to master. And all it takes to begin is one decision. I'm ready to stop treating money like a fling. I'm ready to build something that lasts. Chapter 3. Do you have a gold star in personal finance? Have you ever felt proud of yourself for doing something financially adult? Like paying a bill on time or recognizing the term 401k in a sentence. Maybe you've even managed to resist the siren call of a food delivery app for an entire week. And in that moment, you think, hey, I'm doing okay. But here's the sobering truth that Erin Lowry lays bare in Chapter 3. Just because you're managing a few parts of your financial life well, doesn't necessarily mean you've got it all together. It's easy to mistake small wins for long-term mastery. And in this chapter, she challenges us to take off the mask of perceived competence and really assess where we stand. We live in a culture of curated lives. Think about it. Social media is flooded with filtered images of brunches, vacations, new apartments, and trendy side hustles. It's all too easy to compare ourselves to people who seem to be doing great. But Erin makes a crucial point here. Most of us are faking it to some degree. We cling to surface-level achievements, like using a credit card responsibly or paying rent without asking for help, and convince ourselves that we're winning at this whole money thing. But if we're not really paying attention, if we don't know what's going on under the hood, then all we've got is an illusion of financial security. This chapter asks us to get brutally honest. Are we actually tracking our spending? Do we know our net worth? Are we mindful of what we're saving? Or are we just avoiding the discomfort of confronting our real financial picture? Erin isn't trying to scold anyone here. She's trying to hand us the flashlight we need to walk through the dark room we've been avoiding. The heart of Chapter 3 lies in this. Awareness is power. You can't improve what you don't understand. And to understand your finances, you need to take inventory. That means sitting down, pulling out your bank statements, credit card balances, student loan totals, investment accounts, every last piece of the puzzle, and putting it all in front of you. It's one of the hardest things to do emotionally, because it forces you to face truths you may have spent years ignoring. But it's also one of the most liberating things you'll ever do. Erin walks you through how to build your own financial snapshot. It's not just about knowing the numbers, it's about recognizing your habits. What are you spending your money on each month? Where are the leaks in your budget? What emotional triggers lead you to spend impulsively? Maybe you shop online when you're anxious. Maybe you avoid checking your bank balance because it makes you feel like a failure. Whatever the case, this chapter invites you to look without judgment. Just observe. Just notice. Just begin to understand. This act of observation is powerful. It reveals patterns you didn't know were there, like realizing you're spending $300 a month on food delivery, or that your gym membership has been charging you for a year, even though you haven't stepped inside once. With that awareness comes choice. You get to decide what to keep, what to adjust, and what to let go of. Erin's message is simple but profound. Financial growth isn't about overhauling your life in a day. It's about making small, deliberate decisions rooted in clarity. But what about the shame that can come with seeing your debt or realizing how far behind you are on saving? That's real, and Erin doesn't pretend it's not. Instead, she reframes it. She says, "Don't let shame be a dead end, let it be a wake-up call. You are not a failure for being here. You are human. And now you're choosing to show up differently." Another trap Erin warns us about is benchmarking our financial progress against other people's. Maybe your best friend just bought a condo, or your coworker talks about maxing out their Roth IRA like it's no big deal. It's tempting to measure your worth by those milestones. But here's the problem. You don't know their full story. That condo might be funded by family money. That coworker might be deep in credit card debt. Comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel only leads to anxiety and self-doubt. Erin encourages us to define our own financial goals, not someone else's version of success. What does financial peace look like for you? Is it becoming debt-free? Is it building an emergency fund? Is it being able to travel or move out of your parents' house? Once you're clear on that, you can stop chasing other people's paths and start walking your own. And there's something quietly revolutionary about that. When you know what matters to you, and you know where you actually stand, you're no longer reacting blindly to your finances. You're leading. You're deciding. You're making empowered choices. That's the shift this chapter aims to spark. So maybe this is the moment you decide to stop pretending, to stop putting on a financial face for the world, while quietly hoping things don't fall apart behind the scenes. Maybe this is when you give yourself permission to say, "I don't have it all figured out, but I'm ready to learn." That's not weakness. That's courage. Because getting real about your finances isn't just about money. It's about self-respect. It's about saying, "I deserve to know the truth. I deserve to feel in control. I deserve to build a future that reflects who I really am." This isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice. It's the start of a lifelong relationship with your money. One built not on fear or shame or Instagram-worthy moments, but on knowledge, intention, and trust in yourself. And so with this chapter, Erin Lowry hands you the mirror and says gently but firmly, "Look, not because you're failing, but because you're worth it." Chapter 4. Dealing with the dreaded B word, budgeting. Let's be honest, just hearing the word budget is enough to make some of us recoil. It's like being told we need to cut out all the fun, rein in every impulse, and live on ramen and regret. But what if that perception is all wrong? What if budgeting isn't the financial straitjacket we've made it out to be, but instead a map that leads us to freedom? That's the question Erin Lowry dives into in this chapter, and the answer might just change everything. She starts by confronting the emotional baggage we often carry about budgeting. Many of us treat budgeting like a punishment. We only consider doing it when things are falling apart, when we're broke, panicking, and wondering if we can stretch $20 across 2 weeks. But Erin offers a reframe. Budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about intention. It's a way to align your money with your values. It's about making sure your financial decisions are building the life you want, not reacting to the chaos of the moment. That's a powerful shift. Then she poses a question that lingers. What if budgeting could be about freedom instead of fear? What if, instead of dreading it, we could look at budgeting as a tool to take back control, to build peace of mind, to start saying yes more intentionally? It's not about saying no to lattes. It's about saying yes to a future that feels stable and self-directed. There's a myth that budgeting has to be rigid, cold, spreadsheet-driven. Erin dispels that quickly. She walks through several approaches: zero-sum budgets where every dollar has a job, percentage-based systems like the 50/20/30 rule, and reverse budgeting where you prioritize savings before expenses. The message? It doesn't matter how you budget, what matters is that it works for you. The perfect system is the one you'll actually use. And if the word budget feels like a wall, change the vocabulary. Call it a spending plan, a financial blueprint, a cash flow game plan. Language matters, and reframing the term can change how we emotionally respond to the process. Erin encourages readers to stop chasing the illusion of perfect budgeting and instead find a method that's flexible, forgiving, and personal. Because ultimately, your budget should reflect your life, not the other way around. She also offers something more rare and valuable than any budget tip: compassion. Erin recognizes that people carry history with money. Maybe you watched your parents fight about it. Maybe you've never had a steady income. Maybe you've tried budgeting before and failed, and now it feels like something other people succeed at, not you. She doesn't dismiss that. Instead, she helps you unpack it and gently challenges the stories you tell yourself. You're not bad at money. You just haven't found the right system yet. And you're allowed to try again. One of the most relatable moments comes when she compares budgeting to trying on jeans. You don't expect the first pair to fit perfectly. And if it doesn't, that doesn't mean your body is wrong. It just means you try another pair. Same goes for budgets. The first method might feel awkward. You might overspend, forget to track, fall off for a week or two. That's okay. Budgeting is a skill, not a personality trait. You learn by doing. And speaking of sustainability, Erin urges readers to include room for joy. That's right, your budget must have fun money. A plan that's all discipline and no delight won't last. Whether it's a standing Friday night takeout order or saving up for a vacation, fun money keeps you engaged and motivated. Without it, you're setting yourself up to feel deprived and eventually to give up. She also introduces a simple, game-changing tweak: budgeting by pay period instead of monthly. This approach is especially helpful if you get paid bi-weekly or irregularly. Instead of viewing your finances in 30-day blocks, you break your plan into 2-week segments. It makes your expenses easier to predict, manage, and prioritize. It brings immediacy and clarity to your money flow. But budgeting isn't just about making a plan. It's also about tracking your actual spending. Erin emphasizes the importance of visibility. You need to see where your money is going, not in your head, but in front of you. That might mean a tracking app, a spreadsheet, or an old-school notebook. She doesn't prescribe a single solution. She encourages you to find the method that feels intuitive and natural. The key is consistency. You can't change what you don't see. And perhaps the most empowering idea in this chapter is the connection between budgeting and trust. Budgeting is how you rebuild trust in yourself. It's how you stop feeling like money is a mystery or a threat and start feeling like you're in command. It's how you show yourself that you're not out of control. You're just learning. There's so much dignity in that. So much grace. By the time this chapter wraps, you're not just equipped with tips, you're carrying something deeper: belief. Belief that you can do this. That budgeting doesn't have to be painful. That progress doesn't have to be perfect. That your past doesn't dictate your future. And maybe for the first time, you can look at your money and say, I'm not scared of you anymore. I've got this. Chapter 5. Picking the right financial products. You know that awkward moment when you're at a group dinner and someone says, let's just split the bill evenly, even though you barely touched an appetizer while they feasted on steak and cocktails? Yeah, this chapter lives in that moment. That socially uncomfortable, financially pressuring space where our relationships collide with our wallets. Erin Lowry wastes no time pulling us into the truth. Money and friendships? It's complicated. It's not just numbers and budgets. It's guilt, shame, peer pressure, and a deep-seated fear of missing out. The core question is painfully relatable. How do you stay financially healthy without becoming the cheap friend? Or worse, going broke just to keep up appearances? Erin confronts the emotional weight of social spending head-on. We've all been there, invited to a birthday trip, a bachelorette weekend, a spontaneous dinner, and the pressure to say yes is overwhelming. But behind every enthusiastic "sure, I'm in," might be a silent sacrifice. Skipping bills, swiping a credit card, or dipping into savings. It's in those little yes moments that long-term financial goals quietly die. She invites us to consider what we're really doing when we agree to spend beyond our means. Are we afraid of disappointing others? Embarrassed to be honest? Desperate not to look like we don't belong? Erin reminds us, these aren't just purchases. They're deeply emotional decisions shaped by our desire to feel included, loved, and seen. But if we keep saying yes to everything out of guilt or fear, we end up saying no to our future stability. So what's the solution? Erin urges radical honesty, but with grace. Setting boundaries doesn't mean being rude or making others feel bad. It means owning your truth and expressing it with kindness. She suggests practical scripts like, "That's not something I've budgeted for right now," or, "I'm working toward a financial goal, so I'll have to skip this one." Phrasing it this way isn't just polite. It reframes the conversation from, "I can't afford this," to, "I'm prioritizing something important to me." And here's the thing. When your friendships are real, your honesty won't ruin them. It might even deepen them. Because most people are also stressed about money. They're also pretending. And when you break the silence, you give them permission to do the same. Vulnerability opens the door for authenticity. Erin shares clever strategies for staying social without breaking the bank. You can suggest cheaper alternatives, coffee instead of brunch, a potluck instead of a fancy dinner, a picnic instead of happy hour. These aren't just budget-friendly. They're more intentional, more connected, and often more fun. The goal isn't to isolate yourself. It's to participate in a way that honors both your relationships and your financial peace. But it's not just about friends. Dating brings its own set of pressures. In early stages of a relationship especially, we often feel the need to impress, to match someone else's lifestyle, even if it's not sustainable. But Erin argues that money honesty in dating is just as important. If you can't talk about your budget in the beginning, how will you talk about shared financial goals later on? Saying, "Let's stay in tonight," or "That's out of my budget this month," is a powerful act of clarity and trust. And this is where Erin offers her most compelling insight. We spend money to feel like we belong. We spend to avoid being seen as other. We spend to avoid shame. But true belonging isn't bought, it's built. And setting financial boundaries is a bold, necessary act of self-respect. It's not a rejection of your friends, it's a commitment to yourself. She reminds us that people often don't know what you're going through unless you tell them. And while it's scary to admit you're struggling or saving or trying to stay out of debt, it's far scarier to wake up one day and realize you've built a life that looks fun from the outside but is crumbling on the inside. This chapter is a call to courage, to speak up, to get creative, to say, "I'd love to see you, but can we find a cheaper way to connect?" And more than that, it's a reminder that financial peace isn't found in a high income or a fancy spreadsheet. It's found in those quiet, confident moments when your choices reflect your values, when you stop pretending, when you live in alignment with your truth. So next time your phone buzzes with a "let's grab dinner" or "weekend trip" invitation, take a breath. Ask yourself what you want, what you can afford, and what boundaries need to be honored. Then respond with kindness, but with honesty. Because you're not just protecting your wallet, you're protecting your future, your peace, your integrity. And the truth is, the right people, the ones who care about you, will understand. They might even breathe a sigh of relief, realizing they don't have to pretend either. That's when relationships get real. And that's when you realize that saying no to a night out isn't the end of a friendship. It might just be the beginning of something more honest. Chapter 6. Credit Reports and Scores. The report card for life. You know that moment when you open your bank app and feel your stomach drop? Your thumb hovers just above the credit card tab, and part of you wants to press it, while the rest of you would rather throw your phone into a river. Yeah, we've all been there. Chapter 6 of Broke Millennial dives into that exact moment. The one where you finally stop pretending the debt doesn't exist and start dealing with it head-on. The chapter opens with that internal scream we've all heard in our heads at least once. Wait, I owe what? It's a jarring question, but one that cuts to the heart of what Erin Lowry wants to accomplish in this section. She's not just talking about numbers on a page. She's unpacking the emotional weight that comes with owing money. Because debt isn't just financial. It's mental. It's emotional. It seeps into your confidence, your peace of mind, and your plans for the future. What makes this chapter powerful is Erin's empathy. She doesn't judge. She doesn't wag a finger. She knows debt often isn't the result of lavish spending or wild irresponsibility. Sometimes it's about trying to make ends meet. Sometimes it's about taking care of family. Sometimes it's just about not knowing any better in a world that doesn't teach financial literacy early enough. So instead of shame, she offers you a seat at the table, a warm cup of truth, and a step-by-step approach to taking control. She begins with a tough but necessary task, the debt snapshot. This is the moment of truth, writing down exactly what you owe to whom, at what interest rate, and in what order. It's uncomfortable, sure, but also liberating. Because once you can see your debt clearly, it stops being this vague, looming storm cloud and becomes something you can actually tackle. From there, Erin outlines 2 repayment strategies: the debt avalanche and the debt snowball. If you're the type who wants to save the most money over time, you'll likely gravitate toward the avalanche method. It focuses on paying off debts with the highest interest rates first. But if you're motivated by seeing quick wins, then the snowball method is your friend. Knock out the smallest debts first to build momentum and keep yourself engaged. And here's what's refreshing. Erin isn't dogmatic. She's not saying there's one perfect way. She's saying the best method is the one you'll stick with. That's it. Choose based on your personality, your emotional needs, and your lifestyle. The goal is progress, not perfection. As she breaks things down, Erin never loses sight of the human side of debt. She talks about how it affects your relationships, your self-esteem, even your sleep. It's not just a financial problem. It's a mental one. And the first step in healing is acknowledging the wound. She gently challenges the reader to face that wound, to trace its origin, and to stop carrying shame over past decisions or unexpected life events. One of the more eye-opening moments in the chapter is when she unpacks minimum payments. That deceptive little line on your credit card statement, minimum due, isn't there to help you. It's there to keep you paying interest for years, decades, even. Erin gives examples of how a $2,000 credit card balance can cost you over double if you only make the minimum payments. It's infuriating and empowering, because once you know the game, you can stop playing it. She also takes time to break down student loans, perhaps the most emotional form of debt. For many, student loans were supposed to be the key to a better future. But instead, they became a chain dragging behind them. Erin validates that pain. But she also shifts the perspective. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it might take years. But no, it does not define you. Your debt isn't your identity. It's just a part of your financial picture. One that can be worked through, slowly but surely. And here's where Erin shines most. She reminds you that this journey isn't about becoming some flawless financial robot. It's about regaining your agency. It's about choosing what to do with your money instead of letting your money, or your lenders, control you. She pushes against comparison culture, against looking at friends who seem debt-free and feeling like a failure. Because everyone's story is different, and you don't know what help, privilege, or sacrifices someone else had. Focus on your own lane. Then she offers a vision of what lies beyond the debt. A life where you can say yes to opportunities without checking your credit limit first. A life where you sleep better, feel lighter, make decisions based on desire, not desperation. And while the math might be daunting, the mindset is everything. Erin says it best. Every dollar you throw at your debt isn't just a payment. It's a step toward freedom. Each one is an act of rebellion against the system that profits from your ignorance and your fear. Each one is you saying, I am worth more than this. I am not stuck. I am moving forward. So if you've been avoiding the numbers, maybe tonight is the night. Pull up your laptop. Open the portals. Write it all down. It might sting, but it will also empower you. Because when you stop hiding from your debt, you start building your way out. And that, Erin reminds us, is what this whole journey is about. Not just surviving, but reclaiming your future on your own terms. Chapter 7. Wait. I shouldn't just pay the minimum due on my credit card. Let's talk about love, the kind that comes with cozy Friday night takeout, dreamy glances across dinner tables, and Netflix queues built for two. Now let's add the one thing almost no one wants to talk about in a budding relationship: money. Sounds romantic, right? Or maybe it sounds terrifying. Because if there's one thing more intimate than sharing your bed, it's sharing your bank account, or at least the truth about it. In the early stages of a relationship, everything feels light and effortless. The drinks flow, laughter echoes, and we're all just trying to enjoy the ride. But somewhere along the line, the conversations deepen. First it's childhood stories, then family quirks, and eventually, that inescapable topic surfaces. How do you handle your money? Erin Lowry doesn't ease into this chapter. She drops us right into the heart of a question many of us fumble through. When is the right time to talk about money in a relationship? Is it on the third date, when you're both eyeing the dinner check? Or after a few months, when one of you suggests a weekend trip and the other quietly panics over their credit card limit? The truth is, there's no perfect time. But there are a lot of wrong times, mainly never. Many of us grow up being told that money is personal, even private. We learn to shield it like a secret, sometimes even from the people closest to us. But the longer we delay the money talk in relationships, the more it morphs into something awkward, even dangerous. It starts with values. Before you ever swap credit scores or budget spreadsheets, you need to understand your partner's money mindset. And you need to understand your own. Erin suggests starting with the question, how did your family deal with money growing up? This isn't just an icebreaker. It's a window into your partner's entire financial worldview. Were they raised in a household where money meant security or stress? Was budgeting a way of life or a foreign language? We all carry a money story, shaped by what we saw, heard, and felt as kids. And often, that story lingers in the background, quietly influencing how we spend, save, and argue, or avoid arguing about money. Erin reminds us that recognizing those stories is the first step toward rewriting them together. Then comes the elephant in the room: debt. Whether it's student loans, credit cards, or car payments, debt can feel like a third person in the relationship. It's not just about numbers. It's about shame, about fear, about how we think our partner might see us once they know the truth. Erin's approach is gentle but firm. Debt doesn't define you. What defines you is your willingness to talk about it, to confront it, and to build a plan. If you're the one with debt, she says, don't lead with an apology. Lead with honesty. If your partner has debt, don't jump to judgment. Listen. Ask questions. Understand their choices. Financial compatibility isn't about identical bank balances. It's about shared transparency and mutual respect. And then we get to the milestone moments: moving in together, getting married, planning for the future. Each one feels exciting, maybe even magical. But behind the scenes, they're also deeply financial decisions. Who pays what? Are we splitting 50-50 or proportionally based on income? Do we merge our finances or keep things separate? These are more than logistical questions. They're philosophical ones. What kind of partnership are we building? Erin doesn't hand us a rule book. Instead, she offers a toolkit. One couple might thrive with joint accounts and shared spreadsheets. Another might need clear boundaries and independent budgets. The right answer is the one that fits your relationship, as long as it's built on clarity and consent. The only wrong move is avoiding the conversation altogether. But what if one person just doesn't want to talk about it? That's where Erin draws the line. Silence isn't neutral. It's a signal. And in many cases, it's a red flag. Refusing to talk about money, especially when asked, isn't just a communication issue. It's a trust issue. And if left unchecked, it can erode even the strongest emotional connection. To help couples stay aligned, she suggests something simple but powerful: money dates. A regular check-in. No pressure, no judgment. Just two people sitting down. Maybe with wine, maybe with takeout, and asking, how are we doing? What's coming up? Are we okay financially? It makes money a part of the relationship rhythm, not just a crisis management tool. And in one of the most emotionally gripping moments of the chapter, Erin talks about financial abuse. She doesn't dance around it. She lays out the signs clearly: controlling access to money, hiding purchases, demanding receipts, using money to manipulate or trap. It's real and it's serious. Love should never come at the cost of autonomy. If you see these signs, she urges you to seek help, to recognize that financial abuse is still abuse, and you deserve better. But this chapter isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a roadmap to building something better, to seeing money not as a wedge between two people, but as a bridge, as a tool to strengthen the foundation of love, not weaken it. You don't need to be rich. You don't need to be debt-free. You just need to be willing to talk, to listen, and to grow together. And maybe, just maybe, the most romantic thing you can say to your partner isn't "I love you," but "let's look at our budget together." Because in the end, love and money are both about the same thing: choosing to show up every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, and building a future where both your hearts and your wallets can thrive. Chapter 8. Yikes, I already have consumer debt. What now? Let's play a little game. Imagine someone casually asks you, "Hey, what's your credit score?" How would you react? Would you feel a little defensive? Maybe even embarrassed or uncertain? Would your stomach tighten, or would you launch into a story about student loans, or that one time you accidentally missed a payment? Credit scores are like adult report cards, and they tend to stir up a lot of feelings, usually not the good kind. That's where Erin Lowry takes us in Chapter 8 of Broke Millennial, into the complex, often misunderstood, and deeply emotional world of credit. Erin doesn't talk about credit scores like a stiff financial advisor. She speaks like a friend who's been burned, learned the hard way, and now wants to make sure you don't go through the same pain. She begins by demystifying the concept. Your credit score is a 3-digit number that represents how trustworthy you appear to lenders. It's not just about buying a house someday. It's about renting an apartment, getting a job, or even qualifying for a phone plan. Your score speaks before you ever do. She dives into the key ingredients that make up that score, and it's here the magic of her storytelling comes through. Payment history? That's the big one. Missing a single payment just once can bruise your score for years. It's not fair, but it is the reality, and Erin emphasizes that knowing this gives you power. Credit utilization? Another misunderstood term, but Erin breaks it down beautifully. If you're using $4,900 of your $5,000 credit limit, even if you pay it off, lenders start to worry. The sweet spot? Under 30%, and even better if you can stay below 10%. That tells the system you're in control. Then there's the length of your credit history, which is where younger people often get tripped up. You could be wildly responsible, but if your first credit card was issued 6 months ago, you're still too new to fully trust that part. It just takes time. There are also points for having a healthy mix of credit, like a student loan and a credit card, and for not applying for new accounts too often. Every time you apply, it's called a hard inquiry, and too many of those in a short period make you look financially unstable, even if you're not. But what Erin does so well is push beyond the data into the real-life emotions and consequences. She unpacks the way we're taught to think about credit cards as either evil temptations or magical get-out-of-jail-free cards. Neither is true. They're tools, nothing more, nothing less. And how you use that tool is what matters. She gives practical strategies. Treat your credit card like a debit card. Set up automatic payments, pay the full balance, and monitor your spending. If you've made mistakes, that's okay. You can rebuild. You can improve. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you stay consistent. Erin also walks us through some of the common credit traps. One big one: closing old accounts. Many people think this helps simplify their financial life, but in reality, it shortens their credit history and can hurt their score. Another: co-signing loans. Even if your heart's in the right place, if that person defaults, it impacts you directly. She urges caution, clarity, and confidence when making those kinds of decisions. What's especially powerful is how she touches on the structural injustices within the credit system. Not everyone starts at the same place. Not everyone has access to the same resources or financial education. And yes, race, class, and background affect credit outcomes. But Erin doesn't use this as an excuse to give up. She uses it as a reason to dig deeper, to get smarter, and to reclaim control where you can. Because understanding the system is how you start to bend it in your favor. By the end of the chapter, your perspective on credit changes. It's no longer a confusing, shame-filled number looming over your life. It's a reflection of choices, some that were made for you, but many that you can now make for yourself. You don't have to be a math genius or a finance major. You just have to be willing to learn and to act. Credit is not a measure of your worth. It's a measure of your habits. And habits can be reshaped. So the next time someone asks about your credit score, you might not flinch. You might even smile. Not because the number is perfect, but because you finally understand it. And with understanding comes power. And in a world where money talks, knowing your credit is learning a new kind of language. One that can open doors, lift stress, and remind you that yes, you are in control. Chapter 9. Student Loans. How to handle them without having a full-on panic attack. Imagine this. You're fresh out of college, or maybe a few years into your career, struggling to make rent, pay off student loans, and still afford basic groceries. The pressure's mounting, and your financial life feels like a slow-motion avalanche. Then, an option appears, almost unspoken at first. Move back home. For many, that suggestion feels like admitting defeat, like retreating instead of advancing. But what if, instead of failure, it's actually a secret weapon? Erin Lowry opens this chapter by tackling that exact fear and flipping it on its head. She speaks with the clarity of someone who's been there. She moved home after college, and not because she didn't have a job. She did it because she had a plan. She knew that building wealth and finding stability often means making unconventional choices. And moving home? That was her power move, not her surrender. In this chapter, she challenges the stigma around living with your parents as an adult. In many cultures, multi-generational households are the norm. But in America and similar individualistic societies, it's often seen as embarrassing. Erin urges us to dismantle that mindset. The economic landscape has changed dramatically. Between student loans, low starting salaries, and skyrocketing housing costs, young people are playing a completely different financial game than their parents did. And to win at this game, we have to play smart, not just proud. But she doesn't romanticize the move. Erin's strength lies in her ability to layer emotional intelligence with practical advice. She understands that moving home brings a unique set of challenges, both logistical and emotional. So she begins with the most crucial tool in your moving home toolkit: boundaries. Before the first box is even packed, Erin recommends sitting down with your parents to discuss expectations. Will you pay rent? Will you contribute to groceries or utilities? Are you expected to help out with household chores? How long do you plan to stay? These aren't easy questions, but ignoring them leads to tension, resentment, and unnecessary conflict. And if you think it's awkward to talk about these things up front, just wait until you've been home for 6 months and suddenly feel like a high schooler again. Erin emphasizes that clarity builds trust. Approaching your move as an adult, not a dependent, sets the tone for how your parents will treat you. If you show up with a plan, respect the house rules, and contribute in tangible ways, you're signaling maturity. You're not there to mooch, you're there to rebuild. And that leads into the emotional territory. What if your parents do treat you like a kid again? What if old dynamics resurface: curfews, unsolicited advice, or guilt trips? Erin reminds us that we can't control our parents' reactions, but we can control how we respond. Respect, patience, and calm communication go a long way. And sometimes that means having hard conversations. Mom, I love you, but I need space and privacy as an adult. Dad, I appreciate your advice, but I'm making my own decisions now. Setting boundaries isn't rebellion, it's maturity in action. She also talks about the social aspect, what it's like to date while living at home, or run into old classmates at the grocery store. It's awkward, sure, but she encourages readers to reframe it. You're not stuck. You're making a strategic choice. You're not living in your parents' basement because you're aimless. You're doing it to pay off your loans, build savings, and launch into your next phase with power. And the results? They speak volumes. Erin shares stories of people who used their time at home to make incredible financial progress. One woman paid off $12,000 in credit card debt. Another used that year to build a 6-month emergency fund and finally start investing. But it wasn't magic. It was intentional. They had goals, tracked their progress, and respected the privilege of being able to stay rent-free. In fact, Erin suggests that if you're not paying rent, you should still act like you are. Maybe your parents don't need the money, but that doesn't mean you should spend it on takeout and online shopping. Create a system. Track your income. Allocate specific amounts toward debt, savings, and investing. If you're really committed, she even recommends showing your parents a monthly progress report of how you're using your time and money wisely. That transparency builds trust and keeps you accountable. If your parents do ask you to pay rent, Erin says, treat it like any other landlord agreement. Pay on time. Don't bargain. Don't act like it's a favor. This isn't about fairness, it's about adulting. And contributing financially can help maintain a healthier power balance between you and your parents. It's your home for now, too. And homes require upkeep, financial or otherwise. Eventually, Erin shifts the focus to the end game. Leaving. You must have a plan for when and how you'll move back out. Maybe it's when you hit a certain savings goal, or after a year, or once your student loans are below a certain threshold. Whatever the criteria, make it specific and write it down. Without a timeline, inertia creeps in. You could blink and suddenly it's been 3 years. That's not failure, but it's rarely the intention. By the time this chapter closes, Erin has not only dismantled the shame of moving home, she's turned it into a badge of honor. Done right, moving in with your parents can be a launchpad, not a fallback. It's not the end of independence. It's a pivot toward long-term stability. It's financial strategy with heart. It's choosing to rebuild before relaunching. So if you're standing at that crossroads, wondering if moving home is admitting defeat, Erin offers a gentle, firm reminder. Not all progress looks like forward motion. Sometimes the smartest leap begins with a single deliberate step back. Chapter 10. I've got debt. So why should I care about saving? Pay yourself first. You probably have it in your pocket right now, that little plastic rectangle you rely on every day. It's not flashy. It's not complicated. It's your debit card. And it feels like the safest way to spend money, right? No debt, no interest, just the money you already have. Simple, clean, responsible. But what if that sense of security is a little misleading? That's where Erin Lowry takes us in Chapter 10. And from the very start, she hits us with a surprising, almost counterintuitive truth. Using your debit card exclusively might not actually be the wisest move. In fact, it could be holding you back in ways you never considered. Let's pause there and think. Why are so many of us so loyal to our debit cards? Well, for one, they feel honest. You're not borrowing. You're not playing with fire. For many people, especially those who watched friends or family get burned by credit card debt, credit equals danger. But what if credit cards aren't inherently bad? What if the real issue is how people use them, and how little they understand about the game they're playing? Erin walks us through a fundamental difference that too few people understand. When your debit card is compromised, your actual money disappears. Someone hacks your info, makes a purchase, and boom, your checking account is drained. Sure, your bank might eventually reimburse you, but in the meantime, that rent money, those groceries, your peace of mind, all gone. Now imagine the same scenario with a credit card. It's not your money, it's the bank's. And credit cards are legally required to offer strong protections against fraud. You're covered. Your checking account stays intact. You sleep better at night. Still think the debit card is your knight in shining armor? And then there's the second major point. Building credit. Using your debit card religiously doesn't help your credit score at all. Not even a little bit. Which means despite all your responsible financial behavior, you're essentially invisible when it comes to your credit history. That invisibility? It can cost you big time. Want to rent an apartment? Buy a car? Take out a mortgage? Even apply for certain jobs? You're going to need a strong credit history. And the earlier you start building it, the better. Think of your credit score as your adult report card. If you never open a credit account, it's like skipping every test and expecting a passing grade at the end of the semester. It doesn't work like that. You need to start small, build a consistent track record, and let time work in your favor. Erin explains it's not about using credit for lavish purchases or playing dangerous games with debt. It's about proving you can borrow responsibly and pay it back, over and over again. So, how do you do that without falling into the trap of overspending? Simple. Treat your credit card like a debit card. Only spend what you know you can pay off right away. Never carry a balance. Set up autopay to cover your full statement balance every single month. Erin is crystal clear about this. The key to winning with credit cards is to never pay interest. Ever. If you can commit to that, credit cards stop being scary and start becoming strategic. Of course, it's not just about being responsible. It's about understanding how the system works. Erin breaks down the 5 components of your credit score. Payment history. Do you pay your bills on time? This is the most important one. Credit utilization. How much of your available credit are you using? Length of credit history. How long have you had your accounts open? Credit mix. Do you have a variety of credit types, cards, loans, etc.? New credit inquiries. Are you opening a bunch of accounts in a short period? The 2 biggest influencers? Payment history and credit utilization. That means if you always pay on time and keep your usage low, say under 30% of your limit, you're golden. Even better if you can keep it below 10%. Now, there are also a lot of myths around credit, like the idea that you have to carry a balance to build your score. Wrong. That just builds interest payments for the bank. Or the myth that closing an old card is good for your credit. Also wrong. That hurts your length of credit history, which can actually ding your score. Then comes the empowerment part. Erin encourages you to check your credit regularly. Use annualcreditreport.com to get your full reports for free. Use apps like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame to monitor your score and watch for changes. The more you know, the more you can take charge. And if you're nervous about diving into credit cards, start small. A secured credit card is a great training ground. You put down a deposit that becomes your credit limit. Use it sparingly. Pay it off in full. Watch your credit grow. Over time, you'll graduate to a traditional card. You'll get better rewards. And yes, those can be sweet. Cashback, travel points, even luxury perks if you play your cards right. Pun intended. But Erin keeps it grounded. This isn't about showing off. It's about protecting your finances, building your reputation, and laying a foundation for your future. Credit is a tool. Use it wisely, and it can open doors. Use it carelessly, and it can lock you in a prison of debt. So should you throw out your debit card? No. It still has a place, like when you're withdrawing cash or want to limit your spending in certain situations. But Erin's point is that relying on it exclusively is like refusing to learn to drive because you're afraid of car accidents. You don't need to avoid credit. You need to learn to use it well. And that's the heart of this chapter. Confidence, not fear. Credit cards aren't evil. They're just misunderstood. And when you understand them, when you take control, you stop being afraid. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. Because the truth is, your future self needs you to care about your credit today. That first tiny charge you pay off this month? It's not just a Netflix subscription. It's the beginning of a financial identity. One that says, I can be trusted. I'm in control. I'm broke no more.